Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Ayin Ches in קידושין, as we learned before. We're at the fourth of the wide lines on daf Ayin Ches and Alf. We learned yesterday. Mishnah said that a bas halal is a product of a forbidden priestly union. If a Kohen married somebody he's not supposed to marry, his daughter cannot marry a Kohen. His daughter, the halal's daughter, cannot marry a Kohen. Rav Yehuda added on that a bas ger zocher also is like a bas halal. The daughter of a ger also cannot marry a Kohen. That's Rav Yehuda's opinion. In other words, the daughter of a ger, even if he's married to a regular Jewish woman, cannot marry a Kohen. According to Rav Yehuda, he does agree, says Rashi back on Ayin Zayin Aleph, that if it's a Yisrael who married a Gyoris, that daughter could marry a Kohen. But the daughter of a ger cannot marry a Kohen, says Rav Yehuda. But Rav Yaakov disagrees. He said in the Mishnah that if either the mother or the father is a regular Yisrael, they can marry a Kohen. Only a ger who marries a Gyoris, the daughter cannot marry a Kohen. But still, we pass them. So see, like Rabbi Yossi, who says that even a ger who marries a Gyoris, their daughter could marry a Kohen. But Rabbi Yehuda's opinion was that the daughter of a ger cannot marry a Kohen, even if he's married to a Yisraelis. Says the Gemara, why is it? Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer bas ger zocher kabas chol zocher, like bas chol zocher. Why is that? Now, but I didn't know since the Kavachomer ma halal shaba mitit b'kshera, halal who came from a kosher drop, in other words, from kosher semen, kosher zera. Why? Because he's Jewish, right? Bita psula, his daughter's puzzle to marry a kohen. Ger shaba mitit psula, ger comes from a non-Jewish drop, a tipa that's not Jewish, that's pasul. And it didn't should be psula. Certainly his daughter should be pasul to marry a kohen. That's Rabbi Yehuda's Kavachomer. Says more, why is that a good Kavachomer? Malachal shaken siyas bavera. The halal, even though he came from a kosher tipa, but his conception was biavera because his father was a kohen who married somebody he wasn't supposed to marry, right? Whereas the ger's parents were goyim. They didn't do anything wrong. They were just a goy marrying a goya. What's wrong with that? So the Gemara says, Kohen Gadol b'almana. Look at a case of Kohen Gadol b'almana. Also, she'en yisirosa b'avera. The Kohen Gadol was not created in sin, and yet bito psula, his daughter's possible Kohen. In other words, the fact that you say ger is different. That ger came from a non-avera. His conception was without an avera, as opposed to halal was avera. Well, the Kohen Gadol's conception when he was conceived was not done with an avera. He was a Kohen, right? And except he committed a sin. He married an almana. His yitzir was not the avera, and yet his daughter is puzzled. The fact that you were created without an avera, like the case of the ger, does not necessarily exempt you from your daughter being puzzled a Kohen. This is Malach Kohen Gadol b'almana. She can't be us of avera. Yes, but the case of Kohen Gadol, the Kohen Gadol marrying the almana, that was an avera. The bia was an avera. Well, look at halal yochiach. When a halal marries a Yisraelis, there's nothing wrong with that. Halal can marry Yisraelis, and yet the daughter is a halal. A halal can't marry a Kohen. So look at halal, where there was no avera done with him marrying the halal marrying the Yisraelis, and yet the daughter is still puzzled to marry a Kohen. So we'll go back and forth, and we'll say Leroy Zeh Karoy Zeh. They're not the same, meaning halal and Kohen Gadol marrying an almana. Both the halal's daughter and the Kohen Gadol marrying an almana, their daughter can't marry a Kohen. They're not like most of the tzibur, most of the congregation of Israel. Why? Because, like Rashi explains, one was created in sin. The halal was created via a sin, and the Kohen Gadol almana, his bia was with a sin. So just like those two, they're not rov kol. I'll bring the ger also, who was also not like most people because he came from a type of psul. In other words, there's something wrong with all these cases. In the case of the halal, he was created through an avera. In the case of the Kohen Gadol marrying an almana, he did an avera, right? And in the case of the ger, he came from a bia psula. So in all three cases, we will say that his daughter can't marry a Kohen. That's the common denominator of them all. Again, tzad shavar shem rav kol. The common denominator of Kohen Gadol b'almana and the halal is that they're not like most of the congregation in the sense that there's some avera done over here. Either he's created by an avera or he's doing an avera now. When the Kohen Gadol married almana, That's why his daughter can't marry a Kohen. So say ger also is not like most people because he came from Tipa Psula. Afanavi ger Shanabrov called Ubito Psula. And that's different. In case of Amona Kohen Gadol and Halal have a common denominator, but there's also something wrong with them. What's that? Shekain yesh b'hem tzad avera. There's an avera there. By the ger, there's no avera. His parents were goyim. They got married and they had this kid, right? So his name was Clyde or Boone or whatever, and he married and he became a convert. No avera there done. Whereas the case of the Kohen Gadol marrying an Amana, that's an avera. Sleeping with her is an avera. In the case of the Halal, his parents committed an avera. So don't look at Kohen Gadol as being the other common denominator with Halal. Ella ema mitzri rishon yechiach. A mitzri rishon. In other words, he's a convert himself. He's an Egyptian convert. What's the halacha? He can marry another Egyptian convert, right? Or he can marry probably a regular convert. But his children will be a sheni, right? His beautiful sheni. He also can't marry himself. So look at that. Right? And what's the issue over there? His child can't marry a Kohen. His daughter would be a Mitzri Sheni, and he can't marry a Kohen. So look at that. There's no avera done there. The Mitzri converted, right? And who could he marry? A ger or another Mitzri or a domi. The child would be a Mitzri Sheni. He also cannot marry a Kohen. No avera done over there. So look at that common denominator. Elema Mitzri Shenichich, right? But what's the point over there, Mitzri Sheni, as Mitzri Shia? He says that what Rashi says, Mitzri Rishon Shenasa Mitzri Rishon. Sheni said no avera was done there. He wasn't created in avera. His parents were Egyptians. They married one another. There was no conception of avera, and his bia was not avera. He converted. He's allowed to marry another Mitzri Rishon, let's say, and his daughter is Pasula Kohen because his daughter is a Mitzri Sheni. So she can marry Kohen. No sin done in the conception, no sin done in the marriage, right? And still his daughter can't marry a Kohen until there's a third generation, until the Mitzri Shlishi. So look at that. So there, again, Lo Tema, back in the Gemara. Lo Tema, where is it? Okay, look at the common denominator of Mitzri Sheni and Halal, that they are both not like most of the people in the Tzibor, and their daughter can't marry a Kohen. So I'll bring the same thing with the Ger. Mal Mitzri Rishon shekain ein roy level bakal. A Mitzri Rishon is different because he can't marry anybody in the Jewish community. Mitzri Rishon is not allowed to level bakal of Jewish people. He can marry a Ger, but he can't marry Jewish people. Okay, Halal Yochiach. Halal, look at Halal, who could marry Halal could marry any Israelis. You do the common denominator, each one's like the other one, each one has an advantage. Mitzri Rishon can't live up a Kal, the Halal could. Right? The Halal, there was an Avera done, the Mitzri, there was no Avera done. What's the common denominator? She'enu Brov Kal, they're not like most of the people in the Jewish community. Will beat up Psula. I'll bring a ger also, who's not like most people. Why? Because he came from a Tipa Psula, She'enu Brov Kal, will beat up Psula, so I was supposed to marry Kohen. She came posting to be also. But you know what's different? That the common denominator of them is that if a halal marries a Jewish woman, so she can't marry, that woman cannot marry a Kohen now. And the same thing with a Mitzri. It's not supposed to marry. And if he marry any regular Jewish woman, they can't marry a Kohen. They're passel the woman with the bia. Mashma with a ger not. Says the Marno, Rabuta ger nami possibly also. Ger will also say possibly also umaisa and a little matzad or the matzad me'aydin. He'll learn it from this exact same case. They're just like these people, just like the halal and the Mitzri forbid a woman that they had bia with from marrying a Kohen. The same way the ger would also lead. So he'll also learn. A beautiful say that a ger also passels the bia. We had that before on where was it? On Ayin. Let's see. Was it on Ayin? Yeah, on Ayin Dalet Amid Beis. The bottom Dalet Amid Beis. We said there Ben Teishasham Yomecha Geramoni Umoavi. Mr. Damikuti V'Sin Chol Mamsa Shabach Nasamavia Paslua. Rabbi Yehuda will say even a regular ger. That's what it said. Rabbi Yehuda will say that a regular ger also passes her. Machalosh Mabedivik Share Postal ger shabab mitiv b'sul lakoshkem, go on, etc. And so in the same matzah to say that if a ger sleeps with a woman, she cannot marry a Kohen. Just like we said before, a ger Amoni, Moavi, Mitzri, Adomi, they're not supposed to marry the cow. Kuti, Nasin, Halal, Mamzer, Shaboa, Akanas, Yisrael. Just we said, Halal passes a woman that he slept with from marrying a Kohen. The same way he'll learn the same thing for a ger. In any case, we don't pass like Rav Yehuda. He says that a bas ger zochah to bas halal, but we say that we'll see that if a ger, even a ger who marries a gyoris, the child could marry a Kohen. That's how we pass. Lezer ben Yaakov said, Lezer ben Yaakov differed from Rav Yehuda. Again, Rav Yehuda said that the daughter of a ger, even if he marries a Jewish woman, the daughter of a ger cannot marry a Kohen. If a Jewish man marries a gyoris, the daughter could marry a Kohen. But Lezer ben Yaakov says either one. If either the mother or the father is a Jewish woman, not a ger, the child can marry a Kohen. That's what Lezer ben Yaakov's opinion. Then we had Rabbi Yossi's opinion that says that even a ger who marries a gyoris, the daughter can marry a Kohen. Now our Gemara is going to bring a fourth opinion. Tanya, even a convert herself. We've been talking about if the parents converted, right? Rabbi Yehuda says if the father's a convert, the daughter can't marry a Kohen. But Lezer ben Yaakov says no, as long as either the mother or the father or is not a convert, the daughter can marry a Kohen. Rabbi Yossi says even if they're both converts, the daughter can marry a Kohen. But they were both converted, and then this child was conceived. They both converted first. Then the child was conceived, the daughter can marry a Kohen. Shimon Yochai says no, even if the child converted, as long as she's under the age of 3, meaning she's still a virgin. So in other words, her virginity grew in while she was a Jewish person. Time Shimon Yochai she's less than 3 years old. See, once she's past 3 years old and she converted, we assume that she had bia, which before she converted, and therefore she's a zona, right? And therefore she can't marry a Kohen, right? A gyoris, a regular like today, a woman 10 or 15 or 20 converted, Kohen can't marry her. But if she converted under the age of 3, Kohen could marry. That's what Shimon Yochai's opinion, right? That's I think what we pass in Shneimar. The pasuk says all the children when they fought against the goyim, it's called tapanashim. Those young children, hachu lachem, you should keep them alive for you. You kill all the other goyim, but the young children you can keep for yourselves for wives. Below Pinchas Pinchas the Kohen was among them too. So you see that even a Kohen could marry a girl who converted under the age of 3. But Rabbanan who don't all like him, hachu lachem lavan mashvachos. He says, keep them alive to be slaves for you, not to marry them. But kula mikra achad, all 4 opinions. Again, we have Rabbi Yehuda, the most stringent. He says that the father must be Jewish, that the daughter can't marry a Kohen. Lezer ben Yaakov says either one, right? Either one, either the father or the mother is not a ger. It's okay. Rabbi Yehuda says even if they're both ger, it's okay. Shimon Yochai says even if the child herself is a gyoris under the age of 3, she can marry. They all darshan this pasuk in Yecheskel, famous pasuk. That's one of the it's the Haftorahs, I think, of קידושין. Almana ugrusha lo yichol enosh. Pasuk says that they shouldn't take an almana or grusha as wives. What are we speaking about? A Kohen or a Kohen Gadol? The pasuk, Kohen Gadol, because a Kohen could marry a grusha, right? A Kohen could marry an almana, can't marry a grusha. But it's an almana grusha lo yikach. We can't even take an almana. We're talking about a Kohen Gadol, right? We'll talk more about this. Almana grusha lo yichol enoshim kiyam besulos mizera base Yisrael, except for you can only marry virgins from the seed of base Israel. Rabbi Yehuda suffer adis like kol zera Yisrael. The father, who's the main zera, Rashi says kol zera klomer al ikar akori zera haina min ha'av lapuke bas ger zocher. So he says the main zera has to be from Yisrael. So Rabbi Yehuda says if the father's a ger, the daughter can't marry a Kohen. Again, we're talking about Kohen, and specifically the first part of the pasuk speak about Kohanim Gedolim. Amar gush lo yikachol nashim kiyum b'sulos. Who must take a virgin? A Kohen Gadol. And who must it be from? A virgin mizera base Yisrael. The main zera, the father, has to be a Yisrael. So that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. If the father is a ger, the daughter cannot marry a Kohen. Lezer Yaakov Savar mizera v'afilo mikza zera. Even a partial zera, if you must marry a virgin, who's zera, even if it's partially Yisrael, meaning if the mother or the father is a Yisrael, that's good enough. Yosi suffer Misha Nizru be Yisrael. No, if it was seeded in Yisrael, meaning that the parents converted and then they seeded this child, they conceived this child, that's okay too, and the daughter can marry Kohen. Misha Nizru B'Suleh be Yisrael. If her virginity was seeded or created while she's a Yisrael, that is to say that even if she converted they converted when she was a baby, and she developed her virginity, that means up until the age of 3, while she's a Jew, that's good enough. So Rav Shimon is the most mako. He says even a girl herself who converted under the age of 3 could marry a Kohen. Whereas Rav Yossi said no, the parents had to convert and then they conceived her. Rav Yaakov says no, either one had to be Israel. Again, the daughter, if both parents were Gerim, the daughter cannot marry a Kohen. And Rav Yehuda says the most machmir that the father must be Yisrael. If the mother's a Yisrael, not good enough. Amalei Rav Nachman Rabba. Okay, fine. So we understand the machlokas here, even though the first part of the pasuk is speaking about a Kohen Gadol, Kim Besula Mizera Beis Yisrael. Even though Kohen Gadol we understand it's Meir Psula. Kohen doesn't have to marry Psula; he can marry a Grusha. But it says Mizera Beis Yisrael. That's apparently going on the regular Kohanim also. But the pasuk itself, the Chor, doesn't make sense. Because if you look at the first part of the pasuk, that's what we just quoted. Almana Grusha lo yikachol nashim Kim Besulos Mizera Beis Yisrael. That's the first part of the pasuk. Now, what's the end? What's the end of the pasuk? Some of your Gemaras may have the whole pasuk on the side. I have one of the more older Gemaras. They don't quote the whole pasuk, but Rashi does quote the pasuk. Amalei Rav Nachman Rabba. Turn the page. Where I'm at base now. Hi Kra Reisha B'Kohen Gadol. For this pasuk, the first part of the pasuk is speaking about Kohen Gadol. The Sefer B'Kohen Hegel, and the Sefer is talking about Kohen Hegel. Why? Because the Sefer, the pasuk, Rashi quotes it in the third line in Rashi. The Sefer B'Kohen Hegel, the Kamer B'Sulas B'Beis Yisrael. V'ha'almana. Go on that from that word of halmana in the third line in Rashi. That's the end of the pasuk. V'almana she'ati almana mikohen yikhu. They could take them. Now, what does that mean? Almana she'iti almana mehem yikhu. You could take an almana as a wife. Who's that speaking about? A Kohen Hegel or a Kohen Gadol? Kohen Hegel, because a Kohen Gadol can't marry an almana, right? So the first part of the pasuk says almana gusha lo yikachu. That's speaking about a Kohen Gadol, because if you can't take an almana. And the end of the pasuk says v'almana she'ati almana mikohen yikhu. They could take that, speaking about a Kohen Hegel. The first part is Kohen Gadol. The second part is Kohen Hegel. What's going on? So he answered him. Rabbi said, "Yeah, sometimes you have that, even though the pasuk didn't say specifically Kohen Gadol this, Kohen Hegel that, but it said like in the Chumash, it's all one pasuk. But sometimes you have that. Because of Baruch, does the pasuk say that? Yeah, it does. The Chivit says here's the pasuk. It says V'ner Elokim Terem Yechba, the light of God before it got extinguished. Ushmul Shocha B'Heichel Hashem. And Shmuel is sleeping in the Heichel Hashem. Now, back on Ayin Beis, we darshan this, that before Eli died, Shmuel already took over. That was the drasha. But the Pashim Shot, Ner Elokim Terem Yechbe, the Ner of God before it extinguished, and Shmuel was Shocha B'Heichel Hashem. What do you mean Shmuel Shocha B'Heichel Hashem? How could Shmuel was not a Kohen, and he wasn't Malchut V'Stav, but how could he sit there? Even the Kohanim, rather, I'm saying, even if he's Kohen, even if he's Bnei Levi, he's not allowed to sit in the basement. So what do you mean Shmuel Shochev? He's sleeping B'Heichel Hashem. That's B'Heichel Hashem. We're talking about literally the menorah. The menorah was lit in the Heichel Hashem, and Shmuel Shochev M'komo, and Shmuel was sleeping in his place in the Machna Levi, Bezras Leviim. So in other words, even though the pasuk isn't clear, the pasuk is nearly Kim Termiach. But Shmuel Shochev, it sounds like Shmuel sleeping in Heichel Hashem, doesn't really mean that. Shmuel Shochev, he was sleeping wherever he was. And nearly Kim Termiach, but the menorah was still lit over there. In other words, you have a pasuk which sometimes is not so clear, especially a pasuk in Nach. Okay, so we understand that, fine. We understand that the first part of the pasuk is speaking about Kohen Gadol. The second part of the pasuk is speaking about Kohen Hegel. But what does that mean? V'almana asherti almana mikohen yikhu. They will take them for a while. What does that mean? Here. We don't have to look at it in Rashi. You can see it in the Gemara right here. V'almana. The end of the pasuk is almana asherti almana mikohen yikhu. We're speaking about Kohen Hegel, right? Who can marry an almana? He can only marry an almana of a Kohen. Right? When we know that a Kohen can marry a widow, right? He can't marry a Grusha, but he can marry a widow. He can only marry a widow who is married to a Kohen. Is that the case? Right? So Yiklu. Almana Shetia, Almana Mikoin Yiklu, that's what the Pasuk says. Mikoin Ein Yisrael Lo, he can only marry the Almana Mikoin Anam Yisrael, it's Hachakamer. Mikoin Yiklu Mishara Koinim Yiklu. It means this. Rashi says it very neatly. Rashi says, Mikoin Ein, Shai Mikkel, look at the Pasuk, Mishar Koinim Yiklu. The Frushi also is explaining the Mikoin Heger Koi, Vachakamer. He's explaining, Vachakamer. Almana asher ti almana, and almana who will be an almana, even Yisrael. We have to stick those with a few Yisrael. Mishara kohanim, the other kohanim that are not Kohen Gadol, they can take them for a while. But as you have to throw in a few words like in parentheses, doesn't mean almana asher ti almana mikohen. It's not like one phrase. An almana who will be an almana from a Kohen. Those are the ones that the Kohen you can marry. No, almana asher ti almana, an almana once she's an almana, even from a regular Yisrael. A regular Kohen, mi Kohanim, the Kohanim who are not Kohanim Dolim, the ones who are Kohen Hedyot, they can take them for a while. Right? It's the Kohen Yiklu, Mishara Kohanim, the other Kohanim or Kohen Hedyot, they can take those women for wives if they're Almanos. From the other Kohanim, the Kohen Hedyot, they can marry them. Rabbi Yomer, Minamasiyim Lakuna. In other words, who should they take as wives? The Kohanim, the ones who are permitted to marry their daughters off to a Kohen Yiklu. We had it, we explained it, it was in the Mishnah, we explained it in today's Gemara, that a Bas Ger Zachar is like a Bas Chol Zachar, meaning a Ger's daughter cannot marry a Kohen. If you can marry his daughter, he can marry his Amana. If you can't marry his daughter, which is to say that when he says that Almana, Ashati Almana of the Kohen can take it, what does it mean? Rav Yehuda says, it says, Mikohen Yiklu, meaning from Almana Sheti Almana Mikohen, from somebody who can marry a Kohen. That means if a ger was married to a woman and the ger died now, so you can't marry, according to Rav Yehuda, you can't marry, the Kohen can't marry his daughter, he also cannot marry his wife because he is because she was married to a ger. Yehuda says, Menamasim Lakuna Yikhu. That's what it means, Mikohen Yikhu, from those who can marry Almana Sheti Almana, if she's an Almana, from those who can marry who you marry off to a Kohen, then you can marry his wife. If she, in other words, a regular Israel is married to a woman, and now he died. Okay, the Kohen can marry his wife because that's somebody who can normally marry a Kohen. But if the husband was a ger, you don't have to make the bas ger zachar, bas chol zachar. If you can't marry his daughter, you also can marry his alman, his wife. If you can marry his daughter, you can marry his wife once he's dead. Obviously, right? Once, if you can't marry his daughter, like Rabbi Yehuda Shita, you can't marry the ger's daughter. You also can't marry his wife. That's what he means to say. That Rabbi Yehuda says, "Mina nasim lakuna almana she'ati almana," from somebody. She's an almana from somebody who you could marry his daughter. You can marry his daughter. That means you can marry his wife. Then the Kohen can marry them. But if this person was previously married to somebody who you can't marry his daughter, like a chalal or like a ger, then you can't marry his wife either. Even a ger marries a ger, you can marry off, the daughter can marry a Kohen. You can marry his daughter. From the time the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Kohanim were knowing a extra higher degree of kedusha among themselves. In other words, from the time the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Kohanim were knowing that if a ger was married to a gerus, their daughter would not marry a Kohen. Kohanim wouldn't marry their daughter. They had to say either the mother or the father had to be a regular Jew. Nachman said, if he asks a shaila, we pass him for him like Yaakov, meaning only let your daughter marry a Kohen if the father or the mother is the Yisrael, not if they're both Gerim. However, Nasa, if the Kohen married the daughter of a ger and a giores who were married together, you don't force them out, because we go like Rabbi, but we're no way like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. What about the case of a convert who converted under the age of 3? So Reb Shimon's opinion is that a giores under the age of 3 could marry a Kohen because he learns Basulos, or Basulos grew while she was in Zera Yisrael. Not clear if we possibly like him or not. Says the Mishnah, Omer Beni Zeh Mamzer. Man comes along and says, my son is a mamzer. Meaning, let's say my wife committed adultery. It's not my child. Or he committed adultery or somebody can't. He didn't. They showed up from out of town. Nobody met these people before. He said, my son's a mamzer. Ain't an em. He's not believed. Rashi says because it's his son. You can't testify about relatives, right? Ain't an you can't testify about your own family, and therefore he's not believed. Another svar is that ain't from Russia. He says his son's a mamzer. He's let's say that he committed adultery with somebody he wasn't supposed to sleep with. He's making himself a Russian. Ain't a Russia. Okay, so that's what the Tanakhama says. Even if both the mother and the father are moda that the child's a mamzer, they're not believed. Let's say the child's unborn. What's the advantage of being an unborn child? The child's a fetus, and they say that kid's a mamzer. Also, ain't in a matter. We'll see what the difference is there. Afilu. What's the afilu? What's the difference if the kid's born or not? We'll explain. Rabbi Yehuda says they are believed, and we'll see based on a pasuk. Based on a svara, they're not believed because Eidan makes from Russia, and Eidan, a person can't testify his relatives. But there's a pasuk which teaches us that he is believed, and we'll see he is. My vafilu shneim. What do you mean? Even if they're both, a man doesn't even know if his wife really committed adultery or not. He doesn't know who really was. He can't be 100% sure that the child is his. Even her, the Kimla, she would know, right? She knows if she committed adultery, who she slept with. She's also not believed. Not only what? Where the child was born already. The child was born already. We assume the child was okay. He was kosher. Now you want to come and say he's a mamzer? There's a presumption that he's not. The law may not believe that. Even the unborn fetus, where there's no chazak yet, the child wasn't born. He has no chazak of kashrus. Nami less the chazak of kashrus. Also, they're not believed. So the Tanakhama says that they're not believed. Neither the father nor the mother believed to say the child's a mamzer, even if the child was born already and there was a presumption that he was kosher. And certainly, if the child wasn't born yet, they're not believed. Rav Yehuda says they are believed. Rav Yehuda Demana. Why? Kedatanya Yakir. The pasuk says he has beno ben asnua Yakir losses of Mishnayim. Is bechor the son. If the son is the ben asnua, the ben of the pastor of the Ish pastor, he's believed. The father's believed. Yakir. What does it mean? Yakir Elohim. He's allowed to identify him, to recognize him, to identify him to others. Become Rav Yehuda. In other words, it's not like somebody family, they grew up here. You remember when the children were born, etc. The guy shows up from out of town and he says he's got a couple of sons, says this son of mine is a bechor. You believe him. He's believed to say it's myself who's a bechor. He gets a double share. Just like he's believed to say that he's believed also to say that he's not a kosher Kohen. He's a ben grusha or ben chalutza. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. The Chum say he's not believed. The Chum's going on the ben grusha ben chalutza. He's not believed to say that. The pasuk says he's believed to say he's the sons of Bechor. He's not believed to possible to say he's ben grusha ben chalutza. Right. So we go like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says they are believed. I understand why it says Yakir to tell me that he's believed to say, to identify that this child is a Bechor. El Rabban and Yakir Lomli. What do you need Yakir for if he's not believed? Lomli. It says, but Sarah Chakera. When he needs, we don't know. Like we said before, when he shows up, we're out of town. Right? We don't know who he's believed. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he's believed Yakir is to tell me what? That even, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that even he's believed to say the kid's a Ben Grusha, Ben Chalutza, he's a Mamzer, whatever he is, he's believed. But according to Rabbanan, that he's not believed, he's only believed on a Bechor. So what's the Chiddush in that? But Sarah Chakera. Give him a double share. He shows up from out of town. He's got a bunch of kids. They all look alike. And he says, this one's the Bechor. So he says to give him a double share. Says, Cheetah, what do we need a possible? Why do you have to say he's believed to say that my son's going to get the double share? He's believed. What do you need a pasuk for that? If he wants, he can give him whatever he wants. He can give him all his money now, right? He can give him a double share on his own. What do you need a pasuk for that for? It's about chasim and chasim that came later on. He only has a migu on the stuff that he has now. But let's say he says, my son's a Bechor. He's believed on anything he has now. What about the stock market jumped and he got more nechasim later on? He more. How is he be able to that? So for that you have to believe him that he's a Bechor. Once you establish that he's a Bechor, so he'll get the double share of the stuff later on too. Rav Meir says you could be maknid something even if it's not here right now. So again, I could say, if I said this my son is Bechor, even if I don't have a pasuk, I should be able to say, okay, I'm giving him double share of everything that I have later on, right? Yeah. So what do I need Yaakov? What do I need the pasuk for? He can give him every stuff that he's going to get later on too. Just Yaakov Lamali Shenaflik Joseph about the stuff that falls to him when he's a ghosis. In other words, even though he also said automatically could be maked, you can give something to somebody who stuff that's not here yet. Rav Meir holds you could be maked, you can give, you could acquire to somebody else, you could be maked to them something which is not here yet, but it only works actually when the stuff is here. You can't give it to me; it's not here yet. The Kenyan works. I can give you something which I don't have yet. The stuff I'm going to get later on, I'm giving you now. But I have to be able to be alive and give it to you at that point, because it's not here right now. So it has to be. So when let's say the stuff that he gets later on when he's dying, he's not able to give it then because he's not the seichel. He's unconscious. He's still alive, but he's unconscious. So there the migu wouldn't work. You can't say, what do I need a pasuk for? Since he's able to give it to him later on, right? Even though he's not, even the stuff that he doesn't have right now, he's able to give it to him now that it should be chal later on. But it only works later on if the guy's alive. If the guy's dead, it doesn't work. If he's a ghost, it doesn't work. But so for that it works, that he can identify now that he's a Bechor, so that the stuff that he gets even later on when he's a ghost, he doesn't have to give it to him then. Once he established that he's a Bechor, he'll get the double share automatically, even though the guy's a ghost. Why not talk about after death? Because stuff that he gets only after death, that's called roy. A Bechor only gets a double share in the stuff that's extant at the time of death of the father. But let's say after the father died, some great uncle died and left the Yerusha, which comes down to the family now. The Bechor doesn't get a double share in that. So we can't be talking about stuff that came after death, but we could be talking about stuff that came when the man was dying and then not able to give it away. Even if you hold like Rav Meir, you can give stuff away that you don't have yet. But when you get it, you have to be able to give it then. That's how the midah would work. So that's what we mean over here according to Rabbanan. So now we paskin like Rav Yehuda. You're believed even to say your kid's a mamzer or he's a ben Yerushim and chalutza, etc. According to Rabbanan, say you're not believed for that. What's the point of Yaakov to tell me that to establish that he is a Bechor, so that even stuff that he's not able to give now, even if you're like Rav Meir, that he could be maked of a shalabalola, but he's got to be capable of giving it when the stuff is here, that the Bechor will get a double share in that. But we pass like Rav Yehuda, that you could even say not only is a father believed to say he's a Bechor, he's also believed to say he's a mamzer. And we pass in that way. The fathers believe. However, the Mefarshim say, if this son who you define now as a mamzer has children, on that you're not believed. Why? Because you can't say if the father's a mamzer, the grandchildren are mamzerim too. You're not believed. So you have no power to say these people are mamzerim if there's no evidence to the contrary. If there's no evidence of that, he's really special. Pasuk says the father's believed to say what his son is. He's a Bechor, he's a Ben Grusha, he's a mamzer. Fine, as long as that doesn't affect other people. But if it affects children afterwards, then he wouldn't be believed. Says the Mishnah. Mishnah, let's just see the Mishnah before we close. A man is able to marry off his daughter. For example, how old must she be? Up until the age of 12 and a half, right? So he says to a shliach, marry off my daughter, whoever you marry is fine. Yeah, and then the man himself went and he was Makadasher to somebody else, right? He sent a messenger, the messenger went off, and he himself went and was Makadasher to a different person. Whoever's קידושין was first, then קידושין. Whoever is married first, because the shliach had permission to marry her off. Instead, the father went, and he married her off to somebody else. If A and B, the shliach married off to A, this was married to B. So who was she married to? Whoever was first. If you don't you don't know who was married first. We don't know. There's no timeline. We don't know who it is. So Shneim knows. What is this girl going to do now? She doesn't know. She knows she's married to one of them, and she doesn't know which one. So they both have to give her a get. Imatsu Echad doesn't get bechikas, or one could give a get and she could stay married to the other one. Pardon?
She could just find out
who was first. Yeah, if we can't find out. Let's say they were both around the same time on the same day. Afterwards, the shliach comes back. Oh, we married her off when? On Monday? Was it like around 11 o'clock? It was around the time that I accepted קידושין. We're not sure who's first. Whoever's first is first. We don't know. Both give her a get, or one give her a get and stay married to them. The same thing. Let's say she herself sent a shliach. Let's say she was over the age of 12 and Isha. She gave rishus to a shliach to marry her off to some guy, and then she went and accepted kedushin from somebody else herself. If her kedushin was first, so she's married to the guy that she accepted from. If the shliach married her off, let's say the shliach comes back and says, "I married you off on Monday," and she accepted kedushin on Tuesday, so her kedushin is meaningless because she was already married to the guy on Monday. Then then his kedushin is if they don't know, they're both around the same time. They both give her get. If they don't want to both get a get, or if she's not sure what to do or whatever, if she wants to stay married to one of them, then one could give a get and the other bonus. If neither one wants to give her a get, she's in trouble, right? Because she doesn't know who she's married to. All right, we'll pick them here tomorrow. Mitzvah, have a good day.
So is she Yerusha?
If one of them gave her a get, she's a grusha. Yeah, then if one of them gave her a get and the other guy was Cohen, she'd have a problem, right? She'd have a problem. She couldn't stay married to you. She'd be a suffix grusha, right?